Hello and welcome to episode 91 of the Inventive Marketing Club. We're here every week so you can build a better marketing strategy. On this week's episode, we've got a grab bag. But as Claire's not with me, I needed to bring some friends in because I just can't talk about this on my own. So I brought in Mark from Kyburn.com and Aisha from Spaces and Places. Hello to you both.
Hi.
So what we're going to do, as you're a little bit new to this, I'll just explain it. We have got a few questions that you've given me, or we've sort of plucked from our grab bag of questions. And we're just going to go through them kind of round robin style. If it's your question, I'd just like you just tell me a little bit about the problem, then we'll dive into it. And both of you feel free to sort of contribute. And we'll see how this is going to work. Bit of an experiment. So let's just get to know you a little bit better for everyone who doesn't. Mark, do you want to go first and just explain a little bit about yourself, your company, and Kyburn.com?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Mark Begg. I'm the owner of two different companies, Cirencester Fabrication Services. We are a metal fabrication and welding company out of Cirencester, as the name says. And we specialize in anything metal, basically. We make everything from staircases to structural beams to small little intricate pieces for other machinery and parts. The other side of our business is Kyburn Designs, Kyburn Garden Furniture. And that really is around outdoor living. So it's things to live outside. And one of the reasons behind this was there's a lot of things on the market that you can go and buy, but are of a very cheap and poor quality, last one season, and it's that whole throwaway economy. And I really don't like the way that is. So we've designed our furniture and our fire pits you see on the screen at the moment, and are designed to last the English weather. They're designed to be able to survive all of it and be able to provide somewhere for you and your family, something to enjoy on the outside. You see those up there, and we have just on this side of me as well, some chimeneas and other bits, and on there as well we have it. So that's really us. We have our fabrication side in the back end, and our Kyburn is really around our consumer front end shop.
Yeah, and you've got not only do you make the products, but you can customize them as well. So you can see here in the fire pit, the fold-up fire pit, that you could have a custom design.
Yeah, that's right. Because we fabricate everything ourselves, we often get customization requests whereby people want their family names in it. We do things for other businesses where we can put business names or other bits in. And the one you're just pointing over at the moment is around the memorial bench.
Actually, that's the memorial bench, but you've got another one.
Yeah, we can do a customized one.
Outdoor living. Here it is. I think you've got the custom bench.
Yeah. So on the back of that, you can put everything now. Obviously the one that we've got up there is Cirencester Fabrication Services, but we do everything from sort of memorials with war scenes and people's rank and number or anything else, or even just towards a company side whereby companies or businesses want their logos and everything in the back.
Yeah, and these benches are particularly good because they're very much long-lasting compared to a lot of wooden benches.
Well, we've just done some for one of the local councils whereby they wanted it to be low maintenance, as in no maintenance, and vandal-proof. So it's thicker, mild steel than normal. So my 100 kilos could jump in the middle of it and it won't bend or break or do anything. It can't be set on fire. There's no maintenance for it. And it's a harder paint coating on the outside of it, similar to what JCB use on their tractors. Right. It will scratch if you really need it to. It will scratch, but that's minimal maintenance to something rotting or having to be recoated each year, or being set on fire or jumped on and broken or stuff. So very low maintenance.
Yeah, and I think that's the key thing, the hard wearing, because I know I've certainly bought some things, barbecues from, these household stores, and yeah, they are thin and start to rust through and really start to look tarnished after a time and not look very nice. Whereas actually the thick steel that you use, as it does have that slight rust on the outside, that adds to its character and actually it looks really nice.
Yeah, so some of it we leave to actually naturally rust a bit, and it gets what they call a patina. on the outside of it. It's a flash name for rust basically on it. But because of the metal thickness, it doesn't rust through. And then other parts that we make, other things like the bench, is actually hot dip galvanized. The galvanizing coating puts a 25-year guarantee on the actual product from rusting. So, we can put lifetime guarantees on some of our things like that. The fire pits, as you mentioned, they do rust just because of the heat and everything else on it. And the thin ones, you're right, when it looks great in the shop. You get it home, it looks good for the first fire or so. But after one winter of leaving it outside, because we all leave it outside,
who puts the cover on their fire pit or barbecue?
or even clean the ashes out. You
get
put
water in
ashes
it.
It gets waters in there. Yeah. It's stayed with the damp. It rusts through, and that will actually rust through because of the thickness of it within one season. And then people throw it out and don't use it again because it doesn't look good and it's not there. So, the throwaway culture doesn't work, and I don't like that.
No, cool. Well, we'll come back to the site because actually we've been talking about writing content on there, and one of your questions was that content. So we'll come back to that.
Yeah, indeed.
But before we do, Aisha, would you mind just taking us on a little tour of Spaces and Places, a little explanation of what you do?
So I'm literally going to be nothing like yours. So I'm Aisha from Spaces and Places Properties Limited. We are a letting and sales agent. We try to target a lot of, prospective tenants, landlords. We're based in, obviously, Weston. We've got quite a large portfolio of properties and landlords. Just noticed that's our old logo on our website.
You shouldn't have said anything. No one would have noticed.
Oh, well, I've noticed now. And I know Sam was saying to me about, why has that not been updated?
Well, that is interesting because that comes back to another one of your questions. So we'll pick up on that.
Basically, I'm Aisha. Nowhere near as long as what Mark has just gone into detail. But so basically sales and lettings is what Spaces and Places do.
But you are going through a bit of a change in terms of what you're doing. It was just letting, and now you're selling.
So we're trying
property too.
So we're trying to expand our portfolio. So we're kind of going into sales. We're going to have a particular department that deals with obviously mortgages. So you can come and get free financial advice from us. We have that we're going to have that put into place. Don't necessarily know if it's going to be free as such, but there is going to be a mortgage advisor. There's people coming that you can just discuss stuff, which I think is really good to have in this kind of market, that you can kind of walk in, because some agencies you kind of go into, obviously can't name and shame anybody, but some agencies that you would go into, it's kind of, we try to give that more relaxed, friendly vibe feeling, rather than sometimes you can go in and if you don't look like you've got a deposit, etc., or you can afford to rent somewhere, we just treat everybody exactly what I do. Well, me and Sam do. It's just, we like to kind of just approach it because you don't know anyone's circumstances, do you? So that's basically what we're trying to do. We're trying to kind of, over the next year is going to be interesting for Spaces and Places because we're trying to obviously excel ourselves into sales and lettings, really.
Yeah, I'm really changing it, but that will bring us back to one of our questions in terms of your website changing. Well, let's start with you, seeing as we're looking at your site. So one of the questions that you had when we were talking before we started recording is really about that you create social content, but you're not really getting much reaction or engagement that you want from it. And it's like, what can you do to improve that? So maybe just set the scene, just talk about what you're doing already and what you'd like to happen.
What we do, so we tend to kind of, we're not really targeting landlords as such on social media. We don't kind of tend to kind of put on what our fees are, etc. But we do need to start doing that. We do need to start kind of making sure we're kind of current and up to date and stuff with it. We mainly post properties when we've got them ready to go, looking to take on tenants, etc., to expand our database. However, it's so like kind of, you're getting the same kind of people that are current tenants, etc. And I know word of mouth is obviously a big thing in obviously this industry, but social media now is probably a good chunk of it that you need to obviously be doing advertising and making sure it's up to date. So I'd say it's kind of just keeping fresh and up to date with that and knowing how often should you tweak a post to go back and kind of redo it, how long would you say to kind of sit it there for and then re-advertise, or do you delete it and then redo it? It's kind of knowing that side of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So my first question, thinking about this, because you were talking about posting properties, which social channels are you using? Facebook?
So we use Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
We haven't got a Twitter, but I suppose they're all kind of really big, aren't they? Really, if you look at it, all three of those. But yeah, it's just, I'd say
they have slightly different audiences, a little bit, and Twitter is I don't know where that's going to be in a year's
exactly.
time, but
You see some of the things that people post on, and then you just see letting agencies getting absolutely like ripped to shreds on there. And you
really,
and because Twitter's not as censored as Instagram and Facebook, is it really? Like with comments and stuff. So I'd say it's mainly Facebook and Instagram. Our website is massively lacking, and that's something that we do need to obviously look into to redoing and revamping, as such, as I've said to you before.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first question was, with what you're posting, who are you trying to attract? We're trying to attract
new tenants, really, and landlords.
So you've got these two audiences, so
it's two audiences, really. It's kind of trying to show landlords that we're not just advertising on Zoopla, we're advertising on social media, but we're good at coming back to people. Like, you can see our response as such. So we've got
on social media, your comment,
on social media, like, so we have an automatic message that comes up when someone sends us a message on Facebook. However, it would be kind of good to if someone comments on a picture, on a post, and says, okay, this is what you need to do next. So it's kind of having that kind of, and I think that's a big thing. People want to see that you're interacting. You're not just kind of leaving it. And I think that's where we are. We are so behind in that. Like, we're not lacking in with what we are doing now with our landlords and tenants, but it's just getting on top of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you feel you could do better.
100%.
What so with what you're posting, what gets the comments? What gets the questions from people? Because that's what you want, isn't it? You want engagement, interaction, comments.
So we literally just post, and it's just basically we post that they're doing. Let's say, for argument's sake, we've got a 4-bedroom house that's coming uphill, which is a really nice area in Weston. We're saying obviously what the rental price is, what the deposit is, and we're advertising pictures with it. But it's just knowing how to get, I suppose the comments on it really are kind of, do you accept DSS? Do you accept pets?
Oh, like details.
And it's kind of probably being a little bit more kind of detailed in our post, but it's knowing what you can and can't say, that you can't discriminate against on posts and stuff. We've been a letting agency. You can't automatically say to someone, no pets, no this. You obviously have to go through the process of it before you can say no, unfortunately.
Especially in a public forum.
Exactly 100%. And I think it's knowing as well how to get the pictures to look right on the post, so making it look like snap, like you think, oh, do you know what that's caught my eye, that's been advertised like banging, that's a nice property, like they look like they've taken their time to advertise that, and that's the thing.
It stands out. Do you do any content where you are, so that's great, so that's sort of properties that are coming on the market for let, do you do any posts where you might be asking questions about these specific things that people would want to talk about?
No, and I think that's the thing that we have people come into us all the time and say to us, God, you've been so helpful, you've answered all of our questions. And I think that's where we're a bit niche than other agencies. We will take the time to talk to someone if they've got financial difficulties or anything like that. They're not just going, no, sorry, can you go? We will sit there and talk to them and go, okay, these are your options and this is the thing. And I think that's what we need to be on social media, to say, well, actually, if you are in financial difficulty, or you're in an IVA, you're in some sort of you're going through a financial plan, etc., we've got options that we can do. And I suppose that would be a kind of a good thing to have, to say, like, look, if you're in this situation, these are the options that we can offer you. And I think that would be really good to have on our social media, on our website.
Certainly if that's a market you want, if everyone else is ignoring this, probably quite a big group of, maybe they might consider awkward financial situation. But if that's a good market for you, it would be good to communicate that and have more content that you're putting out there that is talking about those questions that are relevant to those people and getting them to engage in it. Because obviously it does seem that they are interested in that.
Definitely, and it's landlords as well. It's kind of having those things so that we can kind of market them to say that obviously this is what we do. There's no hidden fees. We literally, what you see with us is what you get, but we are tailor-made. We do kind of know how to work with different types of that. Like, we can work with you. And that's the thing.
So how can you talk about that over and over again without being boring? Because you don't want to say the same thing.
Exactly. You don't want to keep going, we don't have no hidden fees, we won't charge you this, we won't charge that, because it's just like, okay, you've said that 100 times now, but what's grabbing my attention is your current, with like letting landlords know legislations, how they change and things like that, just knowing like, oh, we've updated this, feel free to take a look on our website, you can see all the latest stuff like that.
But so you're not doing that at the moment. You'd like to do that.
No, and we would like to do something like that. That is something that we would 100% like to do, just to kind of because we think that landlords will like that. It would be more content. It would be, okay, do you know what? They're targeting both markets. They're not just targeting they're not just targeting tenants, they're targeting landlords as well. And that's what basically landlords and tenants are our bread and butter.
I don't think you can ever go wrong by helping people. If you are whatever forum you're putting it out in, or format, I mean, like this for this particular format, the idea is we talk about things, and the aim is it will help someone. This may help you, but also people watching are going to get something from it. And I don't think you can go wrong by doing that. It's going to be, the balance is going to be making sure it's not too landlord heavy or too tenant heavy, because it might be boring for both. But actually, it would be interesting for the tenants to know about the landlord side to some degree, because that educates them better, and vice versa. Have you got any thoughts on this, Mark?
Going back to when I was doing some renting, there was a lot of hoops to go through and a lot of information to pass. Now, for that, with your posting, I don't think you can put it all in the post, because there's too much information necessarily, and posts are snapshots of things and other bits. So your query about, do we put all of it in that? I don't think so necessarily, personally, because you wouldn't read it all necessarily in the post. You need it to grab your attention, so you're not that first bit, and then it takes you to the other bit that gets it all. And the same thing back from a tenant point of view, because I hadn't rented before. I had owned my own house, I'd done everything else like that, but I hadn't rented before. But because I hadn't rented before, the first couple of agencies I went to wouldn't actually see me, because they said, you have no references and you have no other bits. And it's like, well, I've owned my own house, I've got a top credit rating, I've got all these other bits. And they went, well, you can't. And it's like, well, that just doesn't seem right.
It's frustrating, isn't it, when you get people like that? Because we get it when we don't discriminate against anybody. In those situations, we have different processes that we go through. But why should we judge you on not having those references, as long as you've got the other process that we can kind of take into it? And that's what we like to think, that we're niche for that. We don't just turn people away because they've got none of that side of it, if that makes sense.
I wonder if something letting people know their rights as well. I don't know if there's any rights around that, but letting people know what their rights are, specifically if you're championing that.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know if there is any rights and stuff like that. I think it's just basically it's down to agencies just what they want to do, basically. So at their
discretion.
Discretion. So that's the one.
It's because it could be the people you're speaking to aren't necessarily all going to be your customers.
No,
but
exactly.
If you can help them, then eventually they might, it may be the place they want, you're just not letting it for them, so they can't help, but they're on there because actually you're very helpful, and they'll always recommend you to friends. So,
and that's the thing, we do get that. We've got tenants that have recommended their friends, and they've come in and they've gone, oh, okay, like, we know that you you'll talk us through it. You can send us to like a government website that kind of tells you, if you are claiming any form of benefit, what you would be entitled to. So it's kind of one of those things that we're trying to help people as much as we can, and that's where we're probably a little bit more tailored to with, well, either really landlord or tenant.
So is that something that you should be promoting or pushing a little bit more in your adverts?
Probably potentially something. I mean, ultimately, if you spoke to Sam, she would say it would be landlord. That would be her first point. But I think tenant is obviously another massive thing, because obviously like word of mouth, promoting things like you can do this, you can check that, and you can do an affordability expenditure form. That's something that we do as well with people. If we know that they've been in financial difficulty and stuff, we kind of go through it with them so that we know that we're not putting them into a property that they can't afford to let. And I think that's what some agencies do. They just chuck young kids into these properties that are like nearly 2K a month. And it's like, why have you done that?
Yeah, because they don't care, because eventually they might default or not be able to continue paying, and they'll just chuck them out and move on.
100%.
Yeah,
so
that's
I'm
terrible.
probably going right off topic now.
No, but this is relevant. I mean, you were talking about like focusing on just Sam saying focusing on landlords or the tenants, but I think a bit of both. Probably more tenants, I'd say, erring slightly more on the side of tenants, but landlords, I think you could communicate with in other ways off social, maybe with building up an email list or getting people.
Yeah, exactly. And then kind of doing some sort of thing like marketing, like what's the wording for it, when you send out a mailer sort of thing, like with the latest bits and bobs on that, you know, that's current and up to date, and with fees, etc. That's probably something that would be kind of good to do. Yeah,
but it's a good mix. I going back to what Mark was saying about not putting everything in it, I wholeheartedly agree. I think having a lot to say, and then trying to maybe bring people back to the website as well, so you have that content on those blog articles on the website that you can sort of reference. That's going to help your search optimization as well. Potentially
making notes as we're chatting.
But I think the core of it is help people, give them real information, tell them what their rights are, tell them what they should be expecting from a letting agent, because that sets you apart from them, but do it in a way that you would do in person, because I'm sure you do all of this very well in person. It's just trying to articulate that online.
It's trying to make sure it's kind of done, because how I would say something to someone, if I was to put that on the website, people would probably go, oh my God, like she talks to people like that. And it's so much easier when you're in person to chat to someone and kind of like I talk with my hands. It's one of those things, isn't it? When you can kind of get it worded right and correctly, that's the thing that we obviously need to be doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Maybe you're saying you're quite enthusiastic. Maybe video might be a good way to come across as well, because then you're getting that personality.
I don't know.
You're on video. You're on video now.
Would you really? No,
it's the first step. Whatever works, whatever's easiest for your audience. But I think maybe to answer your question, in terms of getting reaction and engagement, I think asking questions that are relevant to your audience, where you are going to get answers, or putting out information which is therefore going to solicit questions off the back of that, rather than just, and I'm not saying you do it like this, but a lot of people do, rather than just pushing information which has no question to it. And so why would people engage when it's just a statement?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why would you want to take my time to answer that when it's just if you've just made a statement or said something, well, okay, great, and it moves on, and you're looking at other things, and you're looking at puppies and other interesting things on your social feed. Ben, you know us so well in this office.
Mark, we better move on to your question. You wanted ideas for blog content, so we've built your new website at the sort of the end of last year. We've just been sort of tweaking and changing and improving the products on it. And your question was, what do you choose what to write about? You've got endless ideas. There's so much we could actually write. Where do we start? How do we narrow it down? So maybe just give me a little bit more context to that.
So it's a twofold thing. You've always said, and I know lots of other people say, you've got to tell your story, right? And it's not about just shouting things of sort of bits. It's tell the actual story and do that with different bits. my question really is around, yeah, I have, like my business, I've got lots of ideas of how to build things. Well, I know how to go about building something. I can start doing some sketches. I can work out what needs to be done and then go down and fabricate a prototype and then tweak it a bit and then take it to market. I'm great with that. That's fine. That's my world. Mm-hmm. What isn't my world is how do we then actually market it properly? And that's part of my question is around, I've got all of these ideas of, oh, I could blog about that. I could blog about that. But I just don't want to shout about random things and they have to link back. So how do you actually, A, choose the right subjects, but B, start to actually build something in a clear and concise way? Because, you know, if you've asked me a question, I can carry on rambling, but I don't want to do that in a blog post, because a blog post, you need to be able to grab it and be, you know, succinct and quite quick in what you do. So the question really is, how do you focus down your ideas, and then how do you go about then translating that into an actual blog post?
Yeah, it's a very simple question, really, but there's a lot of scope to it. What I would start with, and I'm scrabbling to find something here that'll be useful to help explain it. So I use this slide in one of my workshops, and it's what I'm trying to get people to do is understand what the audience's needs are, what their goals are, hopes and dreams. Because once you know what that is, and I guess this kind of relates to your issue, Aisha, as well, in terms of understanding what to post about, is to really understand what are their needs, what are their goals, what are they trying to accomplish in either buying some garden furniture or in life, and then writing benefit statements about that. So actually writing text to show that you understand that. Once you have that, you've almost, and the way I portray it is you have three different ones of those. You have three benefit statements. Once you have those three different benefit statements, you've got three different areas that you can write about. And then it makes it a lot easier to generate content using services like answerthepublic.com, which can generate you loads of questions that people ask about that particular area. So in what I'm showing at the moment, it's a HelloFresh slide, and it's one of the goals is about saving time cooking. So you can generate lots of content all around cooking, saving time, quick tips. You know, there's probably lots of different ones you can come up, lots of different questions that people ask, maybe some quick recipes that you could generate content out of that can then be put on the website and shared on social media. So it's going to give you a focus. You know your customers are interested, or at least you believe they are, because you've gone through a process. And then it helps you really narrow it down. And then if, let's say you've got three of them, in terms of a strategy, you probably don't, you could either do it where you will just rotate between them. So we're going to do a little bit of cooking, a little bit of money in this case, a little bit of stress saving tips on how to sort of speed peel onions or quick chop garlic or whatever it might be to save stress when you're actually cooking. I don't know. There's lots of different things like that. And you could just rotate between them, or you could have focuses. You say this month we're going to focus on this particular area. So it could be that you tie it in with external activities that are happening. So maybe there is a curry month. I don't know if there is, or a curry day. So you say in April it's curry day on the 12th. So we're going to focus on curry, and we're going to give you lots of tips and ideas for each of those, saving time, saving money, saving stress on curry. Does that make sense? That's how I would approach it.
Yeah, it does. Like kind of.
You've just made me hungry instead. Yes.
So it's for me, it's about really bringing it back to what is it your customers want. Okay. And if you know your best customers, really defining what your best customers want. So in this case, let's have a look. And we did go through this as part of the process. So it'd be like bringing those benefit statements back out again and having a look at what people want from their garden and having a look at that. What do they actually want out of their garden? When they're entertaining friends, what do they want? And then starting to break that down. I can't remember what your benefit statements are, but we'd have got three of them, and it's basically then working through those and then being clever, aligning it to the various products, aligning it to the seasons. So we're trying to time things right. and narrowing it down that way. Not that it's necessarily easy, but it's something you can do on a month-by-month basis where you're always looking a month ahead. Do you think that would work, Mark, for you in terms of helping narrow things down, or do you want to narrow it down even further?
I can see some instant sort of bits to be able to go, we could pinpoint this. I guess that answers the first bit of how to narrow down the ideas a little bit and pick topics that I like the idea of, using the sort of the service or thinking about what are the most common questions. It's almost like your FAQ and doing them around your FAQs. I guess the second bit then is, how do you create a blog post around it, the sort of the size, the structure, the other bits and pieces of it, because what's the ideal size, what's the ideal structure? And I'm sure there's not a magic wand, otherwise it would be you would be out of a job. But it's where do I go from taking an FAQ question and writing a 3-line answer to something to actually writing an engaging blog post that can be sent out and that you can use?
That's the harder bit. I mean, I'm not a copywriter. I think the key thing is to understand how you're helping your customer. Okay, so what I do, just to briefly outline that, Mark, is just pick one here. Just get a good title, like how to clean and maintain my fire pit. Write a very quick summary, which is a brief example of how that might look on the Google search result page. And once I've got that, that's going to give me lots of ideas that I can just bullet point those down. And then it's a case of trying to write it as if I'm talking to someone. And I think that often comes across best. You don't want to use something that is overly formal in terms of language. Read it through, and then in terms of length, answer whatever needs answering the question. If it's short, it's short. That's just the way it is. If you're optimizing for SEO, you probably want to aim between 500 and 1,000 words, depending on what you're trying to answer, but there's no point forcing it. Add images, do a video if you can. I think that's brilliant to add in there. I think that's it. I think we've done pretty well on the questions. I did have a few extras in there, but we might pick it up next time. So thank you very much, Aisha. Thanks, Mark, for joining me. It's an interesting experiment. I might try this again. Get people on. But for now, thank you very much. Coming up next week, we've got product pricing. So we've got Alan Harrod from Hot Dogs Rocks joining us, and Dan from Dan Barker Studios, and we're going to discuss the challenges of how you price your product or service. So that's going to be quite fun. So we're here every Friday from 10 a.m. If you want to ask a question or be a guest, email support@ratherinventive.com. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, Mark. Thank you for your time. And we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.